Have you ever felt that way? Just stuck. Stuck in a job, a relationship, maybe even just a way of thinking that isn't working anymore, but for some reason, you just can't walk away. It's this universal and honestly pretty painful human experience, right? That feeling of being anchored to the past, even when you can see the future calling out to you.
Wow. Just listen to that. That's how Megan Phelps Roper described the exact moment she decided to leave the Westboro Baptist Church. I mean, think about that. The only community she had ever known. Her entire life, her family, her whole identity, it was all invested in that one place. Her story just perfectly captures that immense emotional weight of letting go. It literally feels like you're losing a part of yourself. So what is that? Why is it so hard? Why do we cling so tightly to things that aren't serving us anymore? Or worse, are actively hurting us? Well, here's the thing. It's not about a lack of willpower. Not at all. It turns out psychology has some really fascinating and surprisingly clear answers, and a lot of them point to one culprit. Our own brains are often working against us.
All right, so let's get into it. We're going to unmask 3 hidden psychological traps that our mind set for us. Think of these as these powerful, kind of sneaky, unconscious forces that make letting go feel almost impossible. But once you can see them, really see them, that's when you can start to step around them.
Okay, trap number 1 is one of the most powerful ones out there. It's called the sunk cost fallacy. The easiest way to think about it is like your brain has this really, really bad accounting system. It gets completely obsessed with what you've already put in. The years in a career, the money spent on a project, the love you poured into a relationship, and it screams at you that if you walk away now, all of that was for nothing.
And this, right here, frames the whole battle perfectly. Sunk cost thinking keeps you staring into the rearview mirror, just fixated on what's already gone. But future-focused thinking, that puts you back in the driver's seat. It gets you to ask the only question that really matters. Based on where I am right this second, what is the best path forward? And if you want to see just how powerful this bias is, look no further than the Concorde jet. I mean, what a machine. It was a total technological marvel, but it was a financial disaster. Even before its first commercial flight, the governments had sunk $2.8 billion into it. And they just kept pouring money into it for 27 years, not because it was a good future investment, but because they just couldn't stand the thought of their past investment going to waste. See, even governments fall into this trap.
So, let's move on to trap number 2. This one is all about the old stories we tell ourselves on repeat. You know the ones. Psychologists call them negative schemas. These are these really deep-seated beliefs, usually formed way back in our past, that basically act like a script for our lives. They're the core stories our brain just defaults to time and time again.
So for example, if you have a deep down schema that says I am unlovable, your brain will constantly scan the world for evidence to prove that story right. It'll take a tiny criticism and blow it way up while totally dismissing a genuine compliment. It's not just a thought, it's a filter that colors your entire reality. And it makes it incredibly hard to let go of situations that confirm the story, because on some deep subconscious level, they actually feel familiar, and weirdly, they feel true.
And that brings us to the final trap, our brain's absolute hatred of loose ends. We are just hardwired to seek closure. Our minds crave a neat, tidy ending, a definitive answer. Ambiguity, uncertainty, they create this kind of mental tension, like an itch that our brain is just desperate to scratch.
Now, this is actually powered by something called the Zeigarnik effect. When a task is unfinished, like an unresolved argument or a goal you gave up on, it creates what's called an open cognitive loop. Your brain keeps that task active, just nagging you in the background. That's why you can't stop thinking about the cliffhanger at the end of a TV show. And it's exactly why walking away from something without a final, clear explanation can feel like absolute mental torture.
Okay, so those are the traps. And yeah, they're powerful, they're sneaky, and they're pretty much part of our basic human wiring. But, and this is a big but, the good news is we are not powerless. So now we're going to look at 3 practical, science-backed tools you can actually use to break free and get your freedom back.
All right, let's dive into our first tool. This one comes from a really powerful approach called acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT for short. The big idea here isn't to change your thoughts or fight them. It's to change your relationship with them. You learn to just step back and observe them without getting all tangled up in them.
A classic way to practice this is an exercise called leaves on a stream. It's simple. You just close your eyes and you visualize a gently flowing stream. And as thoughts pop into your head, I made a huge mistake, I'm not good enough, you don't argue with them.
You just gently place each one on a leaf and watch it float by. This simple act creates a little bit of space, and it reminds you of a crucial truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who is observing them.
So our second tool is a direct attack on that sunk cost fallacy we talked about. You have to consciously break that spell of the past. You have to force your brain to focus on the present and the future. And it turns out you can do it with one single powerful question.
Just ask yourself this, seriously. Forget everything you've already put in, the time, the money, the energy. Knowing everything you know right now, if you were starting totally fresh today, would you choose this job, this relationship, this path? This one question just strips away all the baggage of the past and forces you to look at the situation based on its current merit. And often, the answer is painfully clear.
Okay, on to our final tool, and this is a big one. When those emotions of letting go start to get overwhelming, the anxiety, the fear, the grief, your brain's fight or flight system can kick into overdrive. This tool is all about how to pull the emergency brake on that response and get back in control.
And you don't need anything fancy, honestly. Holding an ice cube in your hand literally forces your brain to focus on that intense physical sensation. The 5 senses exercise is another classic. You just methodically name 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, and so on. See, these aren't just distractions, they are anchors. They pull your attention out of that chaotic storm in your head and back into the physical reality of the present moment, which helps calm your whole nervous system right down.
So as we start to wrap this up, I want to reframe this whole idea of letting go. We talk about it like it's an act of subtraction, right? Like we're losing something. But what if that's completely the wrong way to look at it?
Because moving on is not about erasing the past or pretending it didn't matter. The past shaped you, of course it did. It's about acknowledging that and then gently unclenching your fists so that you have your hands free to build something new. You see, it's not an act of erasing, it's an act of creation.
And that really leaves us with one final thought. All the energy you spend holding on so tightly to what's already over, that is energy you can't use to build what's next. So the real question isn't about what you're losing, it's what could you create? What new chapter, what new relationship, what new version of yourself is waiting for you if you finally just made the space?